give to each other in order to reach something that we couldn't have reached before. Right. So we'll believe in each other. We'll have faith with each other. We'll believe in each other's imagination. We'll take one point and give it to the other person and bring it farther.
Nada was calling in from his tour bus in Spanish Fork, Utah, because of course he is, because if you want to talk to Daniel, he's most likely going to be on the road. Hello, Daniel. Welcome aboard.
Hello, Alan. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, I've been doing these kind of interviews for a long time, and this is my first where it's going to be a more official podcast, and I wanted to start with someone who I know and who is great and young and up and coming and has a new record out, and you fill all those, check all those boxes. So welcome aboard.
Righteous. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I have a lot of respect for you and your writing, man. And I've read your articles and your books. And
Thank you. Appreciate it. So the new record, I still call them records, but the new recording is Horizons. It's coming out. By the time people are listening to this, it will be a fresh and new album out on the market. Tell me a little bit about it. And did you change anything up in the way you approached it? Is your band on the record? And anything else you want to talk about? Let's go.
Pretty vast. Things change all the time. The process unfolds itself as you go down it more. You know, it seems like it's a road where the light that's on the road that's visible only shows part of it, but the road is very long. So things change constantly by design. Yep. Yeah. Nathan Aronowitz is on it. Will McGee's on it on bass. Will Clark on drums. Then a few other folks play it.
In Nashville, where you are based and where you recorded the album, I think, right?
Yes.
There's a certain amount of pressure to bring in hired guns because there's so many wonderful musicians you could call in who, will do a great job. Did you face any of that pressure, or is it something you considered at all doing?
Well, my band, functionally, they're hired guns, but they're just hired for a long time, So it's not like a band in a traditional sense of where everyone has the equal amount of say, and on the business end, everything is split in a way that's even. But also in the workload sense, everything is not even either. You know what I mean? And also in the pressure sense, everything kind of on the organizing principle in the whole thing. So, their job really it's show up, play. And that used to be my job when I was a hired gun for years. And now I'm on the other side of the mirror where I'm the person that organizes on my own accord. And then also with my team, I'm how to set up an environment for people to have a crew, to manage all that, and come up with the vision of what we're doing for certain tours and records and events like the Ryman coming up or Halloween, and all that comes down to me pretty much now. So I noticed early on in Nashville, like the hired gun thing with sessions and with bands, and I liked that, but I also liked the band, so I wanted to kind of do something that was more in the middle of the two,
Yeah.
Because a band now, like an even split band, it's on all levels of everything, not just dollars or music. It's really, it seems like that commercially is just probably 100 times harder than it was in the 60s and 70s and 80s.
I guess it is. There's certainly less of it happening, even from the 90s, I mean, most of there's a lot of bands who are still going strong, but they've been around for a long time. And we've played with half of them, Widespread Panic and String Cheese Incident come to mind, Fish. But while they're obviously still very much active and kicking ass in various ways, they do come from a different generation, sort of.
Yeah.
But the way you answered that question was interesting. It wasn't what I expected exactly, but it's revealing. Because first of all, the point you made about the split, the creative split, and the economic split, but really the creative split, is something that's so clear to me. And I have a hard time sometimes expressing that to people. I'm surprised that people don't understand that. Like the E Street Band for Bruce Springsteen is very much a band, and they're essential to what he does and his sound, but and I'm sure they make suggestions sometimes and he listens, but I mean, his name is the boss and
He's the
he's
boss.
us. And whereas a band like, Widespread, since we just mentioned it, but a band in that sense, or the Grateful Dead or the Allman Brothers, to name two really
Yeah.
avatars of our world. In that situation, the drummer or the bass player might have just as much say on how a song or performance ends up going than the composer of the song or the lead guitarist or the lead singer. And that there really is a difference there that people don't quite grasp who aren't on the inside. So I think you articulated it really well.
Thanks,
Uh,
Alan. Thank you. I appreciate it.
but having said that, you also know what I mean. Like, there's still a difference between going in to the studio with your road band who you've played
Oh,
hundreds or thousands of gigs with, you guys who are awesome musicians, but you just met and shook hands on the way into the studio. I mean, that's a very different
yeah.
dynamic, isn't it?
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, the music that I write and come up with, it requires a familiarity musically in order to really hit that, to check that box on that very mysterious, intuitive, internal feeling of when something is checked. I write some songs that would be great for a Nashville session band, but a lot of them really require a lot of finesse and communication and time. It's just not something that we could just come up with in 30 minutes and then go track it in 3 takes, you know?
Right.
And I knew that early on. And so I had to set up I had to go into the creation of this environment that Cosmic Country did, knowing that.
Um, you have kept a very steady band, other than the drummer has switched out, right? And the other two guys have been with you for a long time.
Yeah, 4 years.
So was that good luck when your initial hiring? Did you like how did you sense, like, if you can go back to when those guys first became your band, that they were guys who were gonna, be the right guys, put it that way?
Yeah. There's this great concept Napoleon Hill talked about, and he was referencing Solomon, King Solomon, and it was a concept of luck. And his suggestion was that luck isn't luck will find many people, but it won't do any good unless it finds a good person. And I'm compressing this concept,
Yeah.
but it's almost like, if you get the ball, maybe you won't drop the ball if it's the right person, but everyone will get a chance. So I had a lot of experience in touring with bands, playing on records, playing locally with bands, and I got to see how the dynamic of the experience of how you get treated as a musician that's working in the industry. I got to see how a lot of that could go. I got to see high end ways of doing it. I got to see very DI ways of doing that. And more importantly, honest ways and unhonest ways. And so I just always was honest with everybody. Um, and I think that definitely attracted a lot of potential people into my life that were really great musicians that were searching for a similar experience. But so that's how I think I found them. But the universe has its mysterious ways of bringing people into your life, which I am very grateful for, Dave. Um, and then the feeling of finding the right musician, I think I learned a lot of that from Don Kelly, from my time in his band at Roberts, Western World. He was such a great band leader, and he could just tell within one bar of music if somebody had a certain amount of phenomena or light to their style. And I think I picked that up from him, and everyone in the band just has that.
Yeah.
And everyone in our crew too, really.
Right. Yeah, and people don't understand. I mean, when you're out on the road, especially as much as you guys have been, the crew is, I mean, you do become sort of a family with all the ups and downs of that. And
Sort of, yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, you're living in very tight quarters with each other and
That,
you're with
yeah,
each other constantly. And one person, the family part of it to me is like, if one person in your house is, constantly leaving clothes all over the floor and dishes in the sink, or hogging the bathroom or whatever, the whole vibe of the house is going to be off. I mean, everybody is in control of the environment as much as everyone else, sort of. So yeah, and the crew is just a huge part of that as well.
Oh my God. Yeah, without a doubt, Alan. To me, it's more like a tribe. The thing, and the only reason I find that concept so interesting is a lot of people say it is like a family, but the thing that I've learned about family is, especially as I get older, I see the love that my parents have for me is unbreakable, and there's an amount of faith and understanding that they bring to the table that they don't have the ability to not bring. And so there's a certain amount of eternal love that's manifesting in space and time that happens with family, just from my experience with my family, that I that makes that word a very special word.
Yeah.
And but I can take the lessons and values that I've learned from the experience of my family and bring it to my tribe. You know what I mean? But I can't suggest that, you know, everyone in the crew and, everyone that's on our bus has to stay here forever, like a family would, you know?
Well, that's fair. No, that's fair. I mean, listen, you could break your parents' heart
Yeah.
and they're still going to love you. You know, they might be really disappointed in you or mad at you, and you might have a hard conversation. You might even
Oh, yeah.
be disassociated with them for a little while. But
Yes.
in most cases, thank God, they're still going to love you. You're still their son, so they're not going to say, see you later. So, yeah.
At least my folks.
Yeah, point taken. Right. We shouldn't take that for granted. That's how we're lucky to come from families like that. So
Yeah, brother.
that's a good point. So Vance Powell produced this record, and I think it's the second straight time you've worked with him, right?
Yeah.
So could you describe a little bit about your relationship with him? For those who don't know, Vance has either produced or engineered so many people. Just off the top of my head, Fish and Chris Stapleton, which gives you a pretty wide range, but gives you an idea of all the people in between those two artists. So could you talk a little bit about what it's like working with him and what he brings to you in the studio?
Absolutely. So I feel like artists usually exist within a community of artists. They'll live in the same place, usually the same part of town, but usually, at least in the same town, so to speak. And Nashville has a lot of artists. And so when a lot of artists live together, there becomes a more or less a trend of how things can go. And there'll be certain styles of art that will get created. So like in Nashville, there's the Nashville sound, you know, and that's a hard sound to be an engineer or a producer on. And Vance has the ability as an engineer and an artist to work with that sound, but he's such a unique individual, which makes him a unique artist. And he's the ability to also digress from that norm on just as high of a level and be able to work with a band, say like Fish or Jack White, Dave School's project with Hardworking Americans or something, he can do both at incredibly high levels. He can, engineer the best-selling country album of the past 10 years, but then he can also work with some of the most famous bands that have nothing to do with Nashville for the past 40 years.
Right.
And he's really the only guy that can do that in town, which no one talks about. Right. And he's on the cutting edge of all this new software that adds resolution to the recorded music listening experience with Sonos and spatial audio. He's really a one of one. As I have no idea why he wanted to work with us.
Well, he likes you.
He does. Yeah.
Trey was telling me that Vance is obsessed with Fender Princeton amps.
Yeah, loves them. That's all I use when I work.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. That's amazing. I have this amazing Fender Princeton. I'll pick it up and show it to you. It's just an amazing amp, and I've used a million different amps, of course, but that's the one that I just use. And eventually, for my purposes, I've played it on a million gigs because I don't need that much more volume, and you mic it anyhow. So that was what I was going to. So you did. That's all you used on this album. And would you have used that if you weren't working with Vance? Is that 100% like coming from him?
Well, I like to delegate to some degree. So the way I work with people is before I go and work with anybody on something that is spanning a considerable amount of time, I try to know what the vision is, and I try to know the parts of the process that I cannot compromise on. And it ends up being a very abstract visionary level of what I can't compromise on. And then when it comes to some details of tools, order of songs, things like that, I like to enter into it as a child and really and have open ears to the wisest words in the room. And so with Vance, uh, whatever amp he wanted to use, whatever guitar he thought was right, I was way down with. You know what I mean? And that adds a lot of opportunity to be present and aware in a collaborative project like that. So if I can know the parts of the road that we cannot stray from, then that clears up a lot of strategy on how we get there to delegate it to someone that's really wise and experienced and imaginative like Vance.
Right.
So microphones, all that.
Do you come out the other side of that with any changes in your approach or changes to your gear, even for your live show?
No, not so much on our live show. It really is a different thing. It really is. And psychologically, it makes a lot of sense to me as to why it is a completely different thing. In order to come listen to our music live, you have to be in the room with us. You don't have to do that with our records or with anybody's records, so to say. So I even though the songs are similar, different deals, different vehicles.
Yeah. You have played so many gigs with so many people over the past few years. Yeah. But even more so in the last, 4 or 5 years since you've been really out pushing it, touring all over the country. Let's talk about a few of the people you've performed with. And, a lot of these were things you opened up and then you sat in. Some of them were just sit in. Some of them were you popping up with them, whatever. But they, for the purpose of this conversation, doesn't really matter. So let's talk about Widespread Panic and Jimmy Herring specifically. How did you first come, hook up with them, and what did you get out of the experience of playing with them?
Oh yeah, I got a lot out of that. The first time we were in the vicinity of that band was during their annual residency that they have in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And we set up a bandstand right outside the Riverside Theater where they were playing 3 nights. And from about an hour before doors to 15 minutes before the set started inside, they allowed us to play for their fans outside. And that's where I met Steve Lopez and their longtime tour manager. And I met Buck Williams, their even longer time manager.
Yep.
Yep. And on the first day we played with them, I think the mayor of the city came out and inaugurated Widespread Panic Day in Milwaukee. So it was I didn't know anything about Widespread at the time. I didn't know how deep the legacy and community and spirit of this band had been happening and how alive it was then and how alive it is now. So to me, it was such an eye-opening experience. And it was nice to enter into that with not having an understanding of who they were and who their people were and what they've done and all that and what their music was and is. But since then, I've been able to play with them, I think 3 other times. Yeah. Once they had us open for them on Daniel Island in Charleston. And that was the biggest crowd at that time that we had ever played to, which is so generous of them. Because in this world, the 2-set bands, they don't need openers. They're doing it to pass the torch, that's an eternal value. It's so gracious. And then we played with them. They invited us down to Mexico to play with them at their festival, and I sat in with them for Ride Me High and I Feel Glad. And George Porter also played with them at that time. And I almost crapped my pants on stage because I had Montezuma's Revenge. And John Bell gave me such a loving pat on the back that I literally almost crapped my pants in front of 6,000 people.
I thought you meant
Yeah, literally
because you were excited, but no. Yeah.
both, both like physically. That was
What a brutal feeling.
brutal feeling, brother. Yeah, it's like my God, just the notes from Jimmy's amps had enough cosmic force alone to rattle my bowels. And then I just played with them at the Ascend Amphitheater in Nashville a few months ago. And
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. I didn't
yeah,
mean to you.
yeah, and but the thing about Widespread too is that band, I I I listen to them all the time, and I learn something from them all the time. But then uh, Jimmy had already had his own trip going on by the time he joined that band, through all the ARU work that all that. And so, and what I learned from Jimmy has kind of its own distinct quality from what I learned from that band.
Yeah, I mean, to be on stage with him, as you just said, standing in front of his amp and feeling those notes coming through the amp must be an unbelievable experience. To me, it is being in the audience with him, because he's, I mean, I've known Jimmy for a long time, but I mean, 30 some years, and we've been friends, and I have, so there's that level of things, but just musically, what he does, there's no one else like him. He's a master in the same way as, well, probably the closest comparison. And I could just see him going, "Oh, Shug, what are you talking about?" But is like John McLaughlin.
Oh man, yeah.
But I don't mean that he sounds like him, but he is in his own way just as unique of a player. So, and didn't he turn to you during one of your sit-ins and ask you what tubes you were using?
That's something I learned that was at Capital One Stadium, and there was like I think just under 10,000 people there. That was my first time on stage in front of that many people. And Widespread Panic is an intense band, so you have an intense music that you're playing in a intense environment that you've dreamed of for years. So the feeling is intense. And I don't know if Jimmy knew I was nervous. Maybe he was just genuinely being childlike and curious. But John singing, just finished the solo. John goes to sing, and like Jimmy stops playing, and I was playing rhythm, and then he talked to me and tapped me on the shoulder, so I stopped. And he's like, "Man, what kind of speakers are that?" And I remember thinking, man, yeah, this doesn't need to be a Goliath that like conquers you on an anxious level. Like you can remain stoic and curious and not allow the scale of this moment to humble you so much to where you start losing part of the fire that you bring to the moment. And man, he did the same thing at Ascent. I was walking with him behind the curtain for him to go on stage, and I was going to stand with Joel Byron, his amazing guitar tech. And the band's on stage making noise, and he's back there talking to me about vintage blackface Fender amplifier circuits.
Right.
And like the crew's like, Jimmy, the band's on stage. You gotta go. He's like, all right. He's like, Dave, we'll talk later at set break. I'll see you, brother. You sound great as usual, man. And,
yeah.
He's
an amazing person. And I think my best guess is that he was both it truly had the childlike wonder and curiosity, and he also was being a good guy and trying to put you at ease. It's so they're not mutually exclusive. And by the way, I was out to dinner with someone, a guy named Bear, who through my wife knows, who's a pretty amazing guy, who was Bill Clinton's chief speechwriter, and he's had this sort of remarkable career. And he's from Fayetteville, North Carolina. He mentioned that, and I said, I know my friend Jimmy Herring's from Fayetteville, North Carolina. This guy has nothing to do with music world or anything. He stopped and said, "Do you know Jimmy Herring?" Well, Jimmy's mother was his English teacher. And, and I didn't know this all the years I've known Jimmy. His mother was like a legendary teacher for decades in the Fayetteville school system, who probably changed the lives of, thousands of people. certainly changed this guy's life. And that's what he said. Like, she's the one who put him on a path to like becoming someone.
Oh,
So in his own way, Jimmy's doing that for young guitar players sitting in with him,
yes.
you know. But yeah, so it's cool. So I just saw a clip of you playing Blue Sky with String Cheese Incident. Uh,
Oh yeah,
yeah, so tell me a little bit about playing the String Cheese. And was that at Red Rocks?
that they have their annual residency there. They were kind enough to have us come open their Saturday show, and they had the Wood Brothers, fantastic band, open up their Friday show.
Yeah, and so that's a real honor too. I mean, the String Cheese, of course, are from Colorado,
Yep.
and the Red Rocks is a big deal. So that's a any show at Red Rocks is a cool show, but that's especially cool. So tell me about your interactions with them. Bill Nershi looked very happy playing with you.
Yeah, I connect with Bill probably the most out of anyone in that band that I've spent time with, just on a personal level, because a lot of that old time tradition that is inspired by these old timey songs, Bill really loves in his soul. So do I. Uh, so we're backstage talking about old Elizabeth Cotton tunes and Kenny Baker instrumentals, and all, Clarence White flat picking songs. But it that band is really powerful. Um, so I just try to go up there and give it my all, really. You know.
And you played Blue Sky, and
Yep.
your tenure in Trouble No More made you a part in a way of the Allman Brothers family. So that's officially endorsed band, and CJ Strock, who's our good friend and both of our manager and agent, and has been, I think, really key to your career
Oh man.
development, right? And so,
And as a person,
yeah,
as a person too.
yeah. And CJ was, Greg Allman and the Allman Brothers Band booking agent over the last, I don't know how many, but several years of their career. So you're part of that lineage now in your own way. How how much was the Allman Brothers music a part of your, I don't know, repertoire before that? And how much do you think, how is it, what has it added to you to your period of like going deep into that?
Dickie Betts, like specifically, a huge deal for me because he was one of the guys to take the through. He developed the through line between Bob Wills, twin fiddle, country western songwriting into danceable. I guess the word would be rock and roll improvisational music, whatever the word is. It's Allman Brothers music.
Yeah.
But he was able to take that source material and take the spirit of that and present it in a way that wasn't very traditional. Um, I always loved the Allman Brothers. It was Eat a Peach was one of the three records that my dad gave me when I first started learning guitar. Um, so, immense, you know.
Yeah. And
And I love,
Yeah,
yeah,
Dickie, you know, I could probably spin out an argument that Dickie's the original cosmic country guy. I mean,
I agree.
yeah, I mean, and I've sort of made the argument through two books now for anyone who's paying attention to what I'm actually saying, that Dickie in his own way is the most responsible of any one person for that
Yes.
uniqueness of the Allman Brothers sound, because he came up with so many of the riffs, and his phrasing and his melodic choices are so unique and so different. I guess different and unique are the same thing, but but different than what anyone else would do. And the way he mixes major and minor, and the way he plays bluegrass licks through a Marshall amp, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. So it's cool to hear. Let's talk about some of your other biggest influences in your development. And I'll name a few, and then if I'm missing some others, you can talk. But you just throw some out there. Danny Gatton.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My God. And the Humbler.
Yeah, and it's still humbling to listen to it, right?
He's a genius. Yeah. I mean, genius, I think, implies that you don't have the reins on your life fully. Not that anyone does, but he really didn't. So I think he deserves that qualification. because it was something that possessed him, as opposed to maybe something that he curated on his own. Maybe not mutually exclusive, but there there are some people that come along that just change the world in big ways and small ways. And in the world of guitar playing, specifically on how to play a Telecaster, there's no conversation that can be had without David Gadd, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Literally no one. I don't know anyone that was more innovative than him on that instrument. And I'm looking all the time.
Yeah. Well, another guy in that Telecaster universe is Jerry Reed.
Totally.
He was a big one for you as well, right?
Oh man. Yes, especially on the storytelling side and just personality side. Jerry Reed, I feel this way about Phil Lesh too. I feel like whatever material instrument somebody is playing, that's a secondary vehicle because the primary instrument that they're playing is their personality. And whatever it is they're going to do, their personality will be there expressing itself authentically. And it could be singing a song, it could be playing a guitar. It doesn't really matter because they're or a bass guitar. It's because of that person, you know. And the people that are able to achieve that synthesis, to me, unconsciously for years, were always the people that touched my soul the most. And then only recently did I become conscious of the idea that it's because of who they are. It was going to be anything that they did, they were going to be special at because they had that personality.
Right. Right. And Jerry Garcia is another one who I think fits that, right? Or it's like you can hear his personality in two notes on the guitar or two notes that he sings, you know.
Oh man, yeah.
Redwood Tree singing to me, but
Redwood Tree singing.
yeah.
Oh, well said. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So, but on a more specific guitar level, how would you describe what Jerry did?
I don't know. I feel really reluctant to try to qualify it because it was so true. The truest things, n- no one really ever can agree on the words on. You know, some people say the universe is love. Some people say God is love. Some people say, Buddha is love. The realest things that are informative to reality that usually are not visible, but are the things that produce what's visible. We we never have really been able to agree on what words to use for those, but we know they're real.
Right.
We don't even know what truth or love really means in its full. But there, the thing about Jerry Garcia is that might, to me, I can't think of somebody who took the idea of what America could be and took that idea and put it into music. I don't know if anyone will ever come close to the amount of accuracy he got with that. He is the sound of the idea of this country, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well said. And then he found the perfect songwriting partner in Robert Hunter who could do that exact thing lyrically.
Man.
It's quite amazing because Jerry never wrote a single lyric, and he was obviously such a bright guy. It's like he could have, there's no way he couldn't have written great lyrics, but he didn't need to because he found his voice in Robert Hunter. It's an amazing partnership, and so together they did that. And I agree. Another guy who you've played with at least a few times, who's more of your generation, is Billy Strings. And how did playing with him come about? And could you describe what that experience is like a bit?
How did it? So the first time I played with Billy was 2019 at String the Halls. It was a Christmas event that he was putting on at Marathon Music City, Marathon Music Works, I think is what it's called. Uh, like 2,000 cap venue. Right before the he entered into this generational phase he's in now. And I remember walking into that. So I saw he was playing, and for one reason or another, I think I think I had his number because we used to live near each other. Um, but I had never really seen him play before. He was just someone that I knew played bluegrass and was out on the road all the time. I didn't know what was going on, and I probably still don't now. Uh, but I texted him and said, "Man, can me and my dad come out to the show tonight? We'd love to see it." And he invited me to come play with him. He was really gracious and generous, which just like all the greats, just like Jimmy Herring or John Bell or Phil Lesh, Billy is just like that. And I remember walking into the room and I got the same feeling walking into the room that I got when I walked into Robert's Western World the first time. There was something spiritual happening. And I knew that there was work for me to be done there and that this was a place I stumbled into through design. And that's when I discovered this whole scene of people, of this whole world, of the people that love to go see two sets of music and follow a band around and chase songs and listen to the show right afterwards. And they love to take the journey on the musical adventures, and which is really antithetical to the way Nashville conducts itself. And at the time, I was really in a place of like not entirely finding the people that were on the frequency that I was on. I had an agent that was more in the country music world, and I was trying to do like radio country shows, and that just wasn't my scene. Um, but that night sitting in with Billy was really informative to me,
Hmm.
and his manager Bill Warner, I think is just as impressive and unique as an individual. Um, that is a manager. And I remember meeting him that night too and thinking the same thing.
Yeah, that's great. And I've known Bill for a long time since he was with Cabinet, and I first met him at the Peach Fest. That's interesting. What year was that?
2019.
Okay, so that was not only the sitting in, but it was sort of a game changer for you. It sounds like opening you up to what was possible and what you could do.
Yeah, I saw I was already trying to. I'm still doing the same thing now, but it was a different stage of what is Cosmic Country and who is it for? And that scene showed to me a great potential,
Yeah.
you know. And
That's
Billy Strings has a it's a very special person. It's a very singular person that does not come around very often. Where you have somebody who has all the skill, harmonic skill, melodic skill to vocalize and sing, has vision artistically, is a natural entertainer in an extroverted sense, but he can also stand there and sing a ballad and not move at all and just has everyone in the palm of his hand. Like I just can't. That is such a special person.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for him.
And he could go sit in with anyone from Tool to
Right.
Paul McCartney to Del McCrory,
Yeah.
Buddy Guy, and it would sound great. And
I know.
look out of place or like he was just hanging on to any of those settings. So yeah, there's not too many people like that. But it's great. In some ways he's paving a new road for you. I'm glad that you had that experience and were able to, get onto that.
Thanks, brother.
Um,
And then I met you shortly after, a couple of years.
yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, and listen, you from the first time that we talked about any of this stuff, you were very much like, I'm a lifer, I'm in it, this is what I'm going to do. And you were very committed to that from the moment I met you. I don't know how much earlier before that. And it's cool. You followed through. You're sitting in a bus right now. You had that van and put 8 million miles on with the trailer and the van. And so it's nice to see hard work and talent and dedication paying off. So it's fun. It was fun to watch Billy take off, not that I knew him as well, but I was watching, and now to see your growth, it's awesome. And it's well deserved.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
That's very gracious.
Yeah, so I want to throw a couple quotes I read from you out and have you explain them a little bit. You said music is a form of service.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, could you explain what you mean a little bit?
Yeah. There's the concept of the self, and psychologically, the concept of the self can fall contextually into two polarities where you retrograde into the self, retrogress, and it's a hyper ego place of self assertion. So, but then the self at times is portrayed in a sense of true achieved potential, actualized potential that is realized and integrated with very high spiritual values. And that is self forgetfulness. I see it in my parents. They're very self forgetful with their children. And so the self that they're linking to is self forgetfulness as opposed to self assertion. And so this world is full of dualities. It's full of as above, so below. Like you just said, mixing major and minor. Those are called relatives in music theory.
Right.
So they're both necessary, but they're both kind of the same thing, but contextually they're different. Um, and so everything, every action, the way that I see it in when I look at the science and the philosophy and the religion of my life, everything is either it's trending towards a self-assertiveness or it's trending towards a self-forgetfulness. And so service would imply forgetfulness. So in order to receive, you must give, which is another duality unto itself. Um, and so the gift and the propensity that I believe I was given, and then I've also worked really hard, persistently and positively with my life, that being music, I'm trying to use that for service. So for self forgetfulness as opposed to self assertiveness. And we know the horror stories of self assertiveness within of being a musician. That can end in really catastrophic ways.
Right.
People can burn out really fast. So that's kind of how I see it. It really is a religious foreshadowing of what I'm getting at with that.
Yeah, and it goes back in a way to what you were talking about, with the music just coming through someone.
Yeah.
Thing that Stevie Ray Vaughan talked about a lot, which makes perfect sense that he was, a vehicle. And, he's someone who almost, hit the rock. He almost lost it all. And then he came back. And the purity of his playing and the soul that came through him is just, hard to even describe if you don't,
It, oh man, it makes me cry. Stevie Ray Vaughan was the first person I ever saw play an electric guitar. My dad used to, when he lived in New Jersey. Yeah. Well, in the basement where my dad's office was before he moved to Nashville was in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, where our house was. There was a TV down there, a TV with a big back. And he played two concerts from there. He played listener supported by Dave Matthews, but then he would play live at El Macombo, Stevie Ray Vaughan, at Double Trouble. And I made him play that one all the time. Stevie Ray Vaughan, when I say his name, I get humble. I can't even talk about it. I had the amount of love that I have for him and what permission he gave everybody to just really be that intense all the time.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, and live at El Macombo, I mean, that render where he's sitting on the drum riser
With the cigarette.
the cigarette and
Yeah.
smoke coming out of his nostrils and
Oh.
playing. It's unbelievable. I watching that, I called my son, who was probably about 11 or 12, over, and I said, just watch this. And I said, what do you see here? And he said, I see someone who's really into what they're doing. And,
Oh man. Yeah.
it's like, yeah, and it's unbelievable.
Well, good for you.
No, go
Good for
ahead.
you as a father to it's so beautiful for you as a father to present that opportunity to your son, and uh,
I whatever flaws I have as a father wasn't not presenting musical opportunities to me.
oh, I'm sure. I'm
But
sure. Yeah.
my daughter is the only one who really played guitar ever, and she's the exact same age as Taz. And when he was like 9 or 10 or whatever, and I saw him for the first time at Roots Rock, I took some videos of him, and I came back and I showed them to Anna, and I said, look, this guy's your age. And she watched it, and she said, he's my age? And yeah. And she's like, well, I'm not playing anymore.
Oh, yeah.
He actually hates when I told him that. He was so upset because, of course, we want to inspire people to play, not to stop.
That's right. Right.
And I totally get that, and I understand. And I'm not trying to say any. Believe me, it was only because she never was really that into it. And so it embraces the other thing, which is like when you're going to do something, you got to really do it. And I think on some level she was understanding because she is someone who's pretty intense and really good at what she does, and that wasn't going to be it. But
Yeah.
he had that from the start. I mean, he was quite remarkable at that age, and he had a great ear. He would just jump in and jay people and pick things up. It wasn't just like he had just learned 20 licks that he could play really fast. I mean, he was really musical. So, and I didn't know you at that age, but I'm sure you were as well.
Not really. I was like more like I was probably 15 or 16 by the time I started developing a dialect. Some people really just know the language of it. It's one thing to know the words, but the concept of a language implies a plasticity and an abstraction, uh, as opposed to a memorization, which is also fundamental and necessary. But there needs to be language fundamentally, it instantiates the act of improvisation because we don't know what we're about to say next. So we got to know it so well, and I got to be able to listen to you and be on the same page. And so to do that with a language that doesn't use words but uses notes at that young of an age, that's a special person.
Yeah. Do you think in order to develop that language and
Yep.
develop your own voice and dialect of the language, do you have to master other people's first? Like, do you have to learn how to copy solos note for note in order to get those under your fingers so that you can sort of understand, okay, this is what Dickie Betts was doing, this is what Stevie Ray Vaughan was doing, whatever, and then be able to move into taking this from Stevie and this from Dickie and this from Jerry and whatever, and then you're
Oh, yeah.
creating your own thing.
I think you have to be able to take in information and understand it contextually. Like like you said, mixing major and minor. That was the first example my dad ever gave me of what's Dickie Betts on on his part of the Blue Sky solo. Uh, so I think so. It was for me personally. It was necessary to do that.
Right.
Yeah, and I haven't met anybody. I don't think that hasn't done the same thing.
Yeah. You also, another thing I wanted to ask you, you said, I read you say somewhere, your community changes the songs. Could you explain that a little bit? How does that happen?
I don't know how it happens. I think it's probably a very, very patient and very almost omniscient design as to how that happens. But from what I can tell, on what's readily observable on my end, being
Yeah.
in this material realm, uh, uh, we're all on the same page on what's going to happen. So it's like a game. Like most things are like games, from what I can tell. You know, a conversation is a game, and there's an unconscious moral conduct that we understand that we're going to give to each other in order to reach something that we couldn't have reached before. Right? So we'll believe in each other, we'll have faith with each other, we'll believe in each other's imagination. We'll take one point and give it to the other person and bring it farther. And that happens musically when we play live. And I see it happen with other great bands too, when they play live too, to really high degrees. And there's something that they need each other. I believe it. And it's not about a song, because a song doesn't need an audience. Bob Dylan wrote Blowing in the Wind to no audience. So a song clearly doesn't need an audience in order to become a song. But I think talking about this live music deal, there does need to be that energy and that conduct that's happening with each other.
And you've been really good at building community amongst your fan base. Has that been like a real concerted effort? And is it harder as you're getting bigger? I mean, when you're playing in larger venues, can you still get to the merch table and interact with people,
Yeah.
for instance? Yeah.
Yeah. On that, especially like on, I'll do that less now because we usually play several days in a row and I sing most of the songs. So I try to save my voice. But like last night, we had the day off. So I'm going to go try to see people. I love seeing people. That is so necessary to meet people and hear what they have to say, at least for me. I know that there's artists out there that are, they love everyone and respect everybody, but they don't really want to take any of their input and bring it to the table in terms of how to discern a new way forward or feedback on what just happened. Like Garcia was like that to some degree.
Well,
But there's lots of these.
it had to be that way. I don't think he was early. He got deified.
I was gonna early on.
He didn't like it. It was a drag. I mean, he couldn't leave his hotel room. He couldn't.
I
He
know.
didn't like art. He loved art. He couldn't go to a museum. I mean, that sucks. Like he's in New York. He'd like to go to the Museum of Modern Art. He was, and he couldn't. I think that that's a point where it becomes, not good. That's unfortunate.
Totally, brother. Yeah. But
Phil Lesh will probably put a baseball hat and sunglasses on and get away with it. But, Jerry was just
surprisingly so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's too recognizable of a guy.
Recognizable.
I'm saying that's a very impossible person to really. I don't know if we'll ever get down at the bottom of him. That's an impossible person. It's like Bach. Not to compare that, but it really is someone that created something within the form of music that is so spiritually real that people just will never be able to help themselves and get away from it or be able to get down to the bottom line of what it is, because it's so true and it's so deep that the space and time mind can't understand it. And clearly Jerry couldn't understand it because it was something that ultimately killed it.
Right.
So,
But you have had the experience of playing with Phil and with Dan and
Kreutzmann.
Yeah, Kreutzmann. Yeah. And also Phil Lesh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and Bobby too.
Yeah. Well, with those guys, especially Phil and Billy, because they've played with so many younger musicians, they've made a real. I mean, Phil, he ran like a Grateful Dead university for 20 years. And there's something for you about playing with those guys, right? That's just different. That will give you a legitimacy and an understanding of that music for the rest of your life, I think, that you couldn't have had if you hadn't had those experiences, right? Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I prayed for those. I really did. And I still do, because the spirit that imbued all those guys when they were in that band together is indeed a spirit, and the spirit's not going to go away. But I wanted to meet the guys who were there, who were like in the boat, so to speak.
Well, look, that's what I'm wearing today.
There you go. You got the Steely. Oh yeah.
It's actually an Arapahoe Basin ski area shirt. They did a licensing deal with them. They do. Two of my favorite things, skiing and Grateful Dead. Yes, well, if the Hawaii shows happen again with Billy, I might have to try to get to them.
Oh, that'd be a thrill to see you down there, man.
Yeah.
It's really up to Billy if he feels physically, if he's in a place to do it, which really is a double-edged sword, because spiritually, I've never met someone that had a better bullseye of what than Billy and Phil.
Yeah. Well, that's probably a good place to end it. We're getting close to now. Yeah. I appreciate your time. New album is Horizons. It's really exciting. Daniel's going to be all over the place touring through the fall, well, through forever probably, but right now through the fall. So go see him on the road. I will see you. I got to look at the schedule, but I'll see you somewhere down the road, and I'll be standing there with CJ waiting to give you a hug.
With the stroke, man.
Yeah, keep going, man. And buddies unite. Don't stop now.
Wow.
Yeah, all the best, CJ.
Buddies unite. Thank you.
All the best, Daniel. I just got you, CJ. Okay, take care, man.
Oh, it's good.
Okay.
See you, Alan. Bye.
All right.